Random House Audio presents The Autobiography of Mrs. Tom Thumb by Melanie Benjamin. Read for you by Mai Guest.
From Harper's New Monthly Magazine, July 2nd, 1850. American Vanity. We are not at all surprised at what in this country is most foolishly called the conceit and vanity of the Americans. What people in the world have so fine, so magnificent a country? If ever these magnificent dreams of the American people are realized, and all that is wanted for their realization is that things should only go on as they have been going on for the last 2 centuries, there will be seated upon that vast continent a population greater than that of all Europe, all speaking the same language, all active-minded, intelligent, and well off.
1885. I suppose it would be fashionable to admit to some reservations as I undertake to write the history of my life. Popular memoirs of our time suggest a certain reticence is expected, particularly when the author is a female. We women are timid creatures, after all. We must retire behind a veil of secrecy and allow others to tell our stories. To that, I can only reply, rubbish. I have let others, one other in particular, tell my story for far too long. Now is the time to set the record straight, to sort out the humbug from the truth, and vice versa. Has any other female of our time been written about as much as I have? It was not so very long ago when it was impossible to open a newspaper without reading about my husband or myself. We even preempted the war between the states during its very darkest days. For a solid week, every newspaper in the land was interested only in our wedding plans, the guest list, the presents we received, my trousseau in particular, receiving much press. President and Mrs. Lincoln were so eager to make our acquaintance that they put aside their own cares, graciously welcoming us to the White House on our honeymoon journey. During the elaborate reception in the Blue Room, where we met a number of dignitaries, including many generals who would win themselves glory on the field of battle, I permitted Mr. Lincoln to kiss me. This was not something I allowed strange men to do as a rule, but felt I had to acquiesce to a presidential request. My husband, however, had no reservations of this sort. Without even asking, he rose on tiptoe to bestow his usual happy kiss upon Mrs. Lincoln, who twittered and giggled and blushed a rosy red. "Mr. Lincoln," she exclaimed with surprise, "the General kisses every bit as nicely as you."
Well, why shouldn't he, Molly?
Mr. Lincoln asked with a twinkle in his gray eyes.
I reckon he's had much more practice.
Everyone laughed appreciatively, and none harder than my husband. I could not join in. It was a sore subject between the two of us already, so early in our marriage. I determined to mention it to him later that night, when we were preparing for slumber. A more immediate problem, however, soon drove the thought from my mind. The enormous 4-poster bed, piled high with the downiest of mattresses, pillows, and plush counterpane, was so tall that we despaired of ever reaching the top. Even my wooden steps, which I had carried with me since childhood, were not high enough. With great embarrassment, I had to summon a hotel chambermaid to assist us in attaining our goal. Once ensconced, naturally we were required to put off any thoughts of nighttime ablutions, unless we wanted to sleep the rest of the night on the floor. The newspapers naturally did not recount this particular detail of our visit. This is but one example of why I have decided to write down my own recollections of my life thus far, and I vow I will do my best to keep them free of humbug. Humbug! I can still hear my mother's gentle voice admonishing me all those years ago. "Oh, Vinnie, my little chick," she said with a worried shake of her head, "if you go with this Barnum, You will be just another one of his humbugs. You will be caught up in that man's snare, and however will you escape without losing your soul? Looking back, I'm forced to admit that my mother was right. I did lose my soul, and so much more. But I'm not sure that I didn't give it away freely. My mother did not know Mr. Barnum as I did. She did not understand him, nor did the world at large. My intimacy with him is a prize, one that I am not willing to share with anyone, not even with my own husband, who knew him first. Not even with Minnie, although she would never have asked this of me. She never asked anything at all of me, except to keep her safe. And in that, I let her down. This is but one more reason why I am eager to share my life's experiences, because I will finally be able to provide a full account of my beloved sister's all too brief time on this earth. My name may be on this volume's cover, as it was on all the handbills, headlines, and invitations, but for once I will not allow Minnie to remain in my shadow, although she was happiest there. I consider it my duty and privilege, even more, my penance, to tell her story too. She deserves to be remembered. Her courage needs to be known, as does the identity of the person or persons who killed her. I've spent the last 10 years trying to decide who was most responsible for her death, Mr. Barnum or me. Perhaps by the time I'm finished with this story, I will have figured it out. Perhaps I won't, for I am not sure I want to know. Listen to me. I am putting the exclamation point before the salutation, as Mr. Barnum used to say. I'd best dim the lights and commence my story before the audience grows restless. And there is no better way to begin this tale than by revealing, once and for all, my real name. It is not, in fact, despite the manner in which I have been introduced to queens, presidents, and even Mormons, Mrs. Tom Thumb. It is not even Lavinia Warren, which is how I was first introduced to the public. No, God saw fit to bestow upon me the lamentable name of Mercy Lavinia Warren Bump. And of the many obstacles he handed me at birth, reader, I have always believed this to be the biggest. Overture.
From the Republican Compiler, Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, December 13th, 1842. Riding on Air. Our readers, says the New York Express, may not be generally aware that railroad cars are now being constructed to rest on air springs, or in other words, on iron pistons, moving in airtight cylinders. The effect is wonderful. The cars ride smoothly and comfortably, and one may read or write in them very easily. But this is not all. It has been found a great waste to carry flour in barrels on railroads, in consequence of the jar. This invention is a complete remedy, and flour may now be transported on railways as well as canals. From the Brooklyn Daily Eagle, June 18th, 1842. Natural Curiosity. Can be seen at Shaw's Museum Hotel a double pig having 1 head, 8 legs, 4 ears, and 2 bodies.
1. My childhood, or the early life of a tiny. I will begin my story in the conventional way, with my ancestry. About the unfortunately named Bumps, I have little to say, other than they were hard-working people of French descent, who somehow felt that shortening bon passe to bump was an improvement. With some pride, however, I can trace my pedigree on my mother's side back through Richard Warren of the Mayflower Company, to William, Earl of Warren, who married Gundretta, daughter of William the Conqueror. This is as far back as I have followed my lineage, but I trust it will suffice. Certainly Mr. Barnum, when he first heard it, was quite astonished, and never failed to mention it to the press.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?